Hello.
Guys.
Hello, everyone. And welcome back to the next episode of Each Other's Soulmates. So we've made it to episode 2. Here we are. Thank you so much for the reception on episode 1. It was our first time ever. I know it may have been a little strange. Whatever, we're trying this out. But thank you so much for listening, for feedback. It's been really cool just watching the reception from everyone. But thank you so much for the support so far. We're really excited to continue this series, this season. We're always looking for improvement. So we welcome the feedback, the support. Everything has been awesome. Thank you so much. Another thing I just wanted to add too, if you want to watch along with Sex and the City too, if you've never seen the show before, if you're rewatching, some of the platforms, just FYI, it is always on HBO Max. It is now on Netflix again, which the video quality looks amazing on it, by the way.
Honestly, it looks like more modern on
yeah. If you want to watch the show with like a modern kind of viewing, that Netflix is the way to go. It's crazy. It's like you're watching the show in 2024. Yeah. So that, and I think it's on Prime. I think at Prime you might have to purchase something, but for sure, if you have a Netflix subscription or an HBO subscription, it is on there. If you want to follow along, watch the episodes, rewatch. So again, we are each other's soulmate. We are a Sex and the City broadcast, and we are two broads talking about our 4 favorite broads in New York City. So today we are doing season 1. Episode 2, which is titled Models and Mortals. So that is the title of the show. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so to start with this episode, we kind of go into a date that Miranda is having with what is called a modelizer. So something that they kind of do in Sex and the City is try to give terminology to things that we encounter in the dating world. This is one of those examples. I don't know if I've ever heard the term modelizer used in like the general public.
I have not.
Really, but I really do feel like it captures like the essence of what they're trying to capture. So the episode opens up again on Miranda's date, and she's doing a game with the date's friends. It's Miranda, her date, and their friends. It's
like a dinner party setting, like around the dinner table.
And the opening up with the game, old movie stars you would have liked to have fucked when they were young, dead or alive. And we thought it'd be fun to play this too.
We thought it would be fun to play along, for sure.
We'd love to hear who y'all's were as well.
Yes, please, please in the comments. We would love to hear who you would love to fuck. Old movie stars, dead or alive. Dead or alive, you get free range. Please pick one and comment down below. If you're on Spotify and you can't comment, please go to our Instagram. So anyway, who is yours?
Mine was Josephine Baker. I just listened to a podcast about her recently and rediscovered her, and the things that she did in her life, I was just so impressed. And then I was looking up photos and I was like, yep.
You're like, that's her.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that.
What about you?
Gregory Peck, for fucking sure. That is
Atticus, right?
That is Atticus from To Kill a Mockingbird. If you did not know that, I'm kind of a literary whore. If you did not know, I have an F. Scott Fitzgerald tattoo. That he just gets me going. So a spider just fell.
That's good luck, right? I saw it.
If you guys did not know, I have massive arachnophobia, so we're just gonna pretend like
literally
that never happened.
And driven an hour.
It was little. I'll live.
So
anyway,
is it good? Okay, cool.
We'll go on.
So I wonder what the spider celebrity would have been.
I don't know.
Anyways, so
Miss Spider.
Like from
stupid. Okay.
Anyways, so they're in the dinner party together, and then As Miranda is chatting with the two other ladies in the dinner party, she finds out that the guy that she was on a date with, Nick, had a bad habit of only dating models. So they told her, "You're so obviously not a model," because they told him to stop bringing models to dinner.
Yeah, they said we need to. They're like, Nick, you got to stop bringing around these girls. We can't have a conversation with them, And it's kind of obviously slightly derogatory, which I don't appreciate because not all
Yeah.
models don't. You have to remember it's New York in the '90s. People may have the impression that, and we do see the theme in the rest of the episode here that models are all beauty, no brains. We know that to not be true at all,
Can be
but
pretty and
that is just, huh?
I say you can be pretty and smart,
Of
but
course,
it,
always.
it's like how they mentioned in the first episode, though, how Miranda's like, you can only be like interesting and ugly or beautiful.
Right.
Like,
It's that same kind of theme, and that's just kind of the what's
yeah,
going on during the times. But
uh,
the friends asked him to bring someone that they can talk with and
yeah,
enjoy a dinner party with, and they tell Miranda to her face, and you're so obviously not a model. No offense though, but if you were in that scenario, would you be offended?
yeah.
Would
I mean,
you?
like, it's like I get what they're saying, but the delivery is not.
Was a little harsh. I think they were just so excited to talk to someone with like
Yeah.
opinions and things, that it might have got it obviously it came off a little
Mm,
bitch what?
yeah. Excuse me. But that leads
Yeah.
to the next scene where Carrie starts talking about modelizers, and she kind of like does an overview of what they are, and she talks about how modelizers are a particular breed, a step beyond womanizers who will sleep with anything in a skirt. Modelizers are not obsessed with women but with models. The
Right.
and the
Men
different.
specifically who go for models and models only. And
Yes.
this was, I would assume, during the times, this would be very prevalent, not problem, but a very prevalent occurrence during the time. But I did want to add to what I was thinking is, yeah, New York in the '90s, that must have been really prevalent. But then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what's our equivalent of that now? And I was like, oh, Instagram models. Like, I totally realized, oh my god, there's these beautiful women, don't get me wrong, these absolutely beautiful women that guys do see as like a standard of beauty, and that's what they kind of not idolize but look at
Exactly.
and expect, I think. And we everyone here knows there's filters, there's airbrushing, a lot of this stuff is edited. I filter my shit all the time, like I know a lot of people do. It's not real. In person everything's very different, but I did think of that. I was like, do we have something similar? And we do we have, but these Instagram models are hot though, by the way. I mean, they just are. So I get it, but like that's kind of our equivalent here now in 2024. So yeah, I
Yeah.
could see that.
It really, yeah. In certain ways, not much has changed, but in other ways, it definitely.
Right. Right.
Um,
So yeah,
yeah,
they talk about
but
it, and
and they're like really hostile about it because like
they
the
really are.
first line that happens, like the scene hasn't even completely changed over yet, and the first line is they're stupid and lazy and they should be shot on sight. And I'm
Yeah, and that's very aggressive.
aggressive and jealous, dude. Like
Yes, it gives insecure, but I think that's the theme of one of the themes too,
you,
is
but
that these women make them feel insecure because they are held at a like on a pedestal because they're models, because they're beautiful, you
and they
know.
also talk about the advantages that you receive when you are an attractive person versus
Right.
when
Pretty
you're not.
privilege, what we now
Pretty
deem as
privileged,
pretty
yeah,
privilege. So,
exactly.
but yeah,
Uh,
they talk, so we go right into them talking about insecurities. It's the four girls back at, I think, is it Carrie's apartment. They're
yeah,
doing they're doing dinner and drinks. They're doing takeout Chinese and drinks.
sounds like fun.
And very fun,
Yeah.
typical girl stuff.
Then,
Um,
as they're eating their Chinese food, they start talking about their insecurities. Like, was it Charlotte hates her thighs, Miranda hates her chin, and was it
Carrie
Carrie?
hates her nose.
Yeah, and
She can't
then
even say the word. She's like
I
my.
didn't say it. She's like this.
I love
Uh,
Carrie's nose.
I do
I
too.
love big noses on
Big
anyone.
noses on anyone, 10 out of 10. And like,
It's
not
one of
to
my favorites.
on women who are put down for it, I'm always just like, why? Like, but
Yeah,
anyways,
I know.
um,
Anyway,
but then it goes to Samantha. Like, they all kind of like take turns. They're like, I'm insecure about this. I'm insecure about this and this. And then
but then we
Samantha,
pan to Samantha,
she
and
loves this.
she goes, "Who, me? What do you mean?"
Yeah,
And
she's
she
like,
says, "I happen to love myself." When she doesn't give an answer, and Miranda snobbingly goes, "Well, because you paid for it." I'm like, first of all, there's nothing wrong if you put money into your appearance. I might add, especially a woman not of her age. Not I'm saying she's old, but she's a woman in her either late 30s or early 40s.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with doing cosmetic procedures or treatments to feel your best. And she
yeah.
even mentions that. She goes, "I have not had plastic surgery, not yet."
But
And
out
I
of
love
curiosity,
that.
do you feel like the difference in pressure, societal pressure to get cosmetic surgery is a bit different than it was back then now?
Yes, it was deemed very crazy, but back then, do you remember how big the like botched plastic surgery was in the magazines? People were ridiculed for how bad their Botox looked, how bad their facelift was, filler. Like they tore into people who had some botched shit, and like I think it scared people away from like cosmetic procedures. But nowadays, obviously, things have turned around, and I
They're
mean,
a little
cosmetic
popular.
procedures are super popular, and but they're more refined. I'm sure obviously technology has advanced to where we have procedures that are less invasive, that give you a more natural result. And I think it's beautiful. I'm going to be honest, I have Botox, I have fillers. I'm 27 years old, but I do that to look and feel my best, and I have no shame in the cosmetic procedure game at all. And the older I get, the more I'm going to figure out what we're going to do with this mess. So, anyway, moving forward.
So the next scene is kind of in that style of interviewing, the way that they did in the first episode with the Toxic Bachelors. And they're talking about pretty privilege, basically. How powerful is beautiful is like that kind of scene. And the first woman mentioned something I thought was interesting. They said the men that they get are either slime balls or they fall in love with you too quick. I thought that was an interesting note.
Very interesting. I can see that though. I can see
Yeah,
that. I
because
can
it's
see that be
like
like the duality.
with the model, especially in the modelizer idea, it like they said, it's like you're not there for the woman, you're there for the model, so it's probably like dehumanizing to a point,
Right. Yeah, I
which
think maybe
is
like an accessory. I don't think all
yeah,
men feel that way, and we're
no,
posed that men are posed that question later in the episode, and we'll talk about it. But anyway, we'll talk about it later. So,
yeah. But like comparing them to objects brings us to our next scene where we
right.
Barkley, Carrie's friend Barkley, who
Who, by the way, I did not realize was Harvey from Suits. I have
yeah,
not seen the full show, but I was rewatching it obviously, and I was like, "Who's that? I think I know that man." And then I was like, "Oh, that's that guy from Suits." Sorry, side note.
wasn't he also in that one movie with Mandy Moore, Because I Said So?
I don't know. I have not seen that.
It's been a few years. Okay, scratch that.
Anyway, so
Anyway,
Barkley and
so
Carrie.
Barkley, they dance around this idea. They're like, he maintains a fabulous lifestyle without having ever sold a painting. I'm like, so he's a
I don't
trust.
know how that works for sure. Oh, trust fund baby.
Trust
I was like, how does that work?
that's the only way I could make sense of that, or like drugs, but I don't know. I don't know his life. And he starts talking about models, and he is definitely on one end of the spectrum with it. He starts talking about how models are easier to screw than regular women. When you treat them like they're nothing, that's when they come to you. And he calls them things.
Yeah, definitely dehumanizing. But he in his defense, he's like, they're beautiful things, and that's my business, is beautiful things. And I get, there's not justifying that, but he sees them as these beautiful objects. When in reality, I mean, truthfully, it's like
Really, what they're playing with in this whole episode is like dehumanizing. Like, this is no longer a woman. This is the image of a
this
woman.
is like right. It's like
Yeah,
pedestal. Oh my goodness,
yeah,
here's this
and that's
beautiful
not good. Because when you do
right.
that, it's anyways.
It
Yeah,
skews everything. It fucks the models over. It fucks other women over. It fucks society's image of women over. We know that now.
yeah.
I'm sure they knew that then, but yeah.
Um, so when Barkley is talking to her about this, he then decides to tell her, like, or show her, I'm sorry, his real art. So he takes her to this other part of his, what was it, his Soho loft, that he has like all of these televisions in like a
Old school
stack.
TV, a box TVs
Old school
stacked up.
box TVs, like the kind that you have to use both hands and like carry, like huge. And they're all of women that he's having sex with
That are models.
that are models,
Models only.
models only. And then the questions posed, like, do they know about this? And was it like
I
not
think he
all?
said like
Some
maybe
of
not all of them, or
them,
some of
yeah,
them maybe.
no,
And I'm just
like,
like, oh,
yeah. I'm laughing because I was so uncomfortable with that scene because like it's so invasive.
it's
Um,
very invasive. It's
it's so
very invasive.
terrifying to think like if that's ever happened to you.
I'm
Granted,
sure that does happen.
and I'm not saying this in any way or regard to say that it's not as bad, but you also kind of have to look at it from the perspective that they had, where, I, if I'm not mistaken, things going viral didn't happen until years later.
Yeah. I mean,
Celebrities
you had that.
weren't
I was about to say it
popularized until the
till
2000s.
the 2000s. We started we got the Paris Hilton, the Kim Kardashian, and that wasn't until
Yeah.
the early 2000s. So I
So,
think people who did stuff like that functioned a little bit safer
mm,
back then.
well, what I was gonna say was in this moment, like, automatically from today's perspective, you see that, you think that person's gonna spread that. That's gonna go viral,
Mhm.
put that on the internet. That
Mhm.
wasn't the same kind of like thing he was doing. He just
I
kind
don't
of
think, because that
hates
was never the
himself.
intention back then, since it wasn't a possibility. That wasn't the intention. It was
Yeah,
more so like his stash of like art. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to fuck these girls because they're beautiful, and I'm going to make a little kind of collage about it because I'm an artist." And
yeah.
that's what he
It's
did.
still fucked
He and
up. It's
he
still messed up. He did not get permission,
Yeah,
and as you can see, he's showing it to people.
right.
So
Without most of these
without
girls'
permission,
consent. So,
there's
but
that. And he's
there's
here
the show.
gonna be so famous here in a little bit, and I'm like, this would ruin her life and her career, but okay. Um, you know. But anyways, yeah, that seems interesting.
Yeah,
But
so Carrie and him actually end up just watching it. My favorite little part though is she's like, the only thing I can say was, and she's sitting there and she puts a cigarette in her mouth. She's like, "You got a light?" And I just loved that little charm of them being like, they're you can, if you watch the scene, there's very enthralled with all these numerous women, and
yeah,
she's like, "I need a fucking cigarette after that, to watch this."
I know it never gets old watching the show and seeing them smoke indoors like that. Cigarette,
I
like
know.
you think about like that smell.
I'm nicotine free for almost a year.
I've been in bars and like casinos where they smoke indoors, and that like intensity is just
I love it. I like Vegas, that waft of a
yeah,
casino. Oh god, it's so good. Anyway,
very
let's not talk about
specific.
nicotine
Yeah,
anymore.
you're let's stop. Anyway, so the next scene, we got Skipper and Carrie. So as you remember from the last episode,
Oh, Skipper.
he went out on a date with Miranda, and she was like, no. And he was like, but I'm gonna kiss you anyways. And she was like, I'm gonna slam you against that wall and kiss you back. So basically summing that up where we left off with them. And then this next episode, you see Skipper telling Carrie, like, she's not answering my calls and calling me back. And so what does he?
Oh, Skipper.
He gets her phone and calls her from Carrie's phone.
So she most likely would pick up, but she doesn't.
Like, bro, get the hint. Like,
but he also leaves a very slightly psychotic voicemail.
Yeah, when he's like, "You better call me back." He's like, "I'm just joking." I'm like, I don't think you
that's are. That's I'm sorry. If a man left a voicemail like that, absolutely not. That know, I understand the urgency of like, hey, we haven't talked, one message suffices. I don't need 17.
Yeah, and I don't.
After 3, I'm going to be a little worried.
And I don't need you going to my friend and leaving me a voicemail from her phone too. That would be the nail on the coffin.
Skipper, we have to give him some grace for being younger, but yeah, but men our age sometimes, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory light, but like the maturity level, sometimes men our age are just, they're still a little bit behind. Sometimes, not all, disclaimer, not all, but sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, well, now you do. You're 27, get with the picture.
Yeah, 27 in the 90s, he probably didn't know as much as 27 now, too.
To be fair, I still feel like a child, so.
I feel that.
But yeah, so that happens. Miranda doesn't pick up, right?
No, he leaves her.
Yeah, he leaves her just the voicemail, and that's it.
Yeah, and then
to add too, Carrie goes, "Oh, I think there's a curse of people who try to set up their friends." Bitch! You didn't have to set them up because you knew that they were not going to work. If you watched the first episode, we talked about that. Why would you set up your friends that you knew weren't going to work? You knew it was going to be slightly disastrous. And now you're over here like, I think there's a curse of people who try and just hook up their friends. Like, bitch!
2 things on that. 1, she makes her money off of people figuring out lessons. Like,
right, which is what we said before, but.
About it, 2, like, she also always manages to steer it back to her, no matter who it's
always
what it's about. There's a
welcome to Carrie.
Okay, but okay.
Okay, Carrie, sure. So she's the victim. That she basically tried to victimize herself there. Let's be real. She's like, there's a curse on the people. I was just trying to help. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. You weren't trying to help. No, you weren't. You would have been like, let me go find someone else for you. Let me go out. Maybe if I meet a girl at a club who's a bit younger, I'll talk to them. Anyway, that's just the beginning of Carrie's nonsense sometimes. So.
Yep.
So then, next scene.
Fashion show.
They go to a fashion show.
So we have an introduction to Stanford's client, Derek, who Stanford is obsessed with in a way that's honestly kind of like not okay. He's very.
It's justified though because he's gorgeous.
You think so?
The model is Derek, right? They call him Derek. What did they call? I wrote it down. What did they call him? The Bone. Yeah. Derek the Bone. That's his model, like, persona. He's an underwear model, by the way. Yeah. He solely models underwear only, apparently. So, but I get it.
World,
and he calls him Stanny.
He does.
He goes, "Hey, Stanny." I love when Stanford is referred to as Stanny in the show. I think it's sweet.
Justice for Stanford. But yeah, and then he says something that's also kind of problematic. He's like, he says he's not gay.
like Stanford, quit dreaming over there. We get it, but come on, man.
Get it, but come on. Then and then one of the cutest lines, not cute, I don't know how you define cute, but Barkley meets Samantha and she goes to Carrie and she's like,
I love this line. I love that she's
up or with a twist.
And she goes, straight up. And she goes, really? So Samantha, then activates Sir Samantha Jones.
So,
like, I'm gonna get this man.
for those who may not know, what she's asking Carrie is he straight or is he gay?
Or is he gay?
Straight up
Or with a twist? Which I thought was precious. It was a very Samantha Jones witty kind of way of talking. And you'll notice that throughout the show, I really do believe Carrie is very funny. You know, she does have some wit to her, but my God, Samantha's delivery of lines and her little like idioms and stuff are just top tier. And we love them, and they just keep getting better as the show goes on. So
yeah, you're in for it. It's gonna be great.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Something I did appreciate, Samantha seems to always ask Carrie if they're looking at the same guy. She asks her like, "Are you with him? Are you interested in him?" Before she
Always.
to go,
because that is a girl's girl.
And so she's like, "No, but he only dates models." And here's Samantha taking the challenge. She's like, "I'm just as good looking as a model."
I love her.
I'm just as good looking as a model, but I chose the high road and got a job, which is
because at the end of the day, I love that she regardless, she shoots her shot.
Yeah.
Regardless if she thinks she can get it or not, she's gonna try. And I just adore that. I get it. I resonate. I get it. Love her.
And
so we're about halfway through the episode already, right?
Yeah.
So
we are already.
So then we pan to the after party of they just watched the show, and now we're at the after party of the fashion show.
The event. And then Carrie runs into Mr. Big, and he's
obviously,
yeah, because when was that going to happen already? And they start talking, and he starts asking her about her column because at this point that's the only thing he really knows about her.
I love that. But before that, though, I love that he mentions that to her. He said, "Hey, I started reading your column." And to be fair, like maybe I'm just easy, but that's that's really cool, right? That's really cool to put something out and for a man to be semi interested in you. There's some connection for him to go and be stop. For him to go and say, "Hey, I watched what you put out. I watched what you wrote." Like, that's really nice. Regardless of what the intention was. Thanks for the read. Thanks for the view. Like, you know.
That he does a good job expressing interest in her work in this episode.
Right.
Although he does call her columns cute. I don't know.
That was, yeah, he was like, it was cute. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And she says the same thing. She's all cute.
But he's like, or I guess she just like mentions like she's currently studying her next story, which is men.
He asked her. He says, "What are you? He's like, what are you writing about next?" He genuinely asked her. Mm-hmm.
And then she tells him, men who date models. And I like it because he's like, "So what have you learned so far?" And she's like, that they treat it like a competitive sport. Like some of them do it as a competitive sport, some of it do it for the validation. And then he's like,
"That's her."
Well, what if they just like exceptionally beautiful women?
And that's what I was referring to before, is like whoever, regardless of what your opinion is, like it may be that, it may be you're trying to validate yourself, it may be that for whatever reason, but it may just be like, this person's absolutely stunning and I would like to be with them, because it can be that simple. I do think how the theme of this show of like, what is it? What's with the models? Well, I don't get it. Does there have to be something? There's something else there. And I don't always agree with that. I'm just like, they're hot. Men are going to, what do you mean? Why is this a big question? They're beautiful, hot women. Of course men want to go after that. I mean, not all men, but some do. I mean, conventionally attractive women, that's just kind of part of it.
There was something I forgot to mention about this interaction, and it's not something that was said to him. It was something that was like in her monologue.
Mhm.
She mentions that he's majorly out of her league. I think this is the only time in the show
Wow.
where she actually like says that out loud. Um,
Or at least in her, like, monologue
oh yeah,
head.
yeah, in her monologue
Yeah.
stuff, that it's acknowledged in that sense. So I do kind of think that in this conversation, at least, or maybe part of it, she recognizes that she's not a part of that group, and I do think a part of the hostility is the sheer jealousy of it.
I agree, and then shortly after, you see, Big's date walk up to
Yeah,
them,
he
and,
rolls in
she
the
was a
stunning.
she was a model on the show.
Yeah, which
S
checks
and she
out.
goes, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. You were great up there." Kind of faced with the truth of here I am in this whole model frenzy, this entire thing, and it's like the guy that I'm interested in is here with a model, of
Yeah,
course, right? And so yeah, that happens.
right
And then she says the lovely statement of, "I felt like
oh
I felt like I was patchouli in a room full of Chanel,"
yeah.
which was a really interesting metaphor, and it's one of the most popular, I think. But I think we've all kind of felt that at some capacity as a woman. I think we've all kind of felt that, like, I'm the odd one out thing, even if it's not the truth, we've all felt that. And I just truly appreciated the metaphor of, like, sometimes you are vulnerable and that, like, you feel like I'm the ugliest person in this room or whatever. And I just think it was a cool way of putting it, because we've all kind of
All
been
been
there,
there. Like, you should acknowledge it because it is something we all kind of go
right? Yeah, but it's screaming out your insecurity. It's just like, oh god, I don't feel
hot.
as apt as these
Walk.
other women, as hot or whatever. And, like, it's definitely probably not the truth, but it's that internal struggle I think a lot of us deal with, especially when you think of models, and you hear, and a model
They
technically
literally do like
here,
the up and down.
yeah, like a
But yeah,
pedestal, and so yeah, that happens.
and she says another interesting thing as the scene kind of ends. She's walking away and she's thinking how she thought she had come to terms with her looks when she turned 30, when she realized she no longer had the energy to be completely superficial. And I think that's an interesting point. It's like when you kind of learn to accept, like, this is what I got. I got to move forward with that and stop, like, wishing for something beyond it, right? Or is that how you took it?
So how do you feel about that statement?
I I think it's interesting because I think like I resonate with it in the sense of like, when I was young, I would compare myself to what I saw, what I thought was beautiful. Like things that I saw in magazines, like exposed collarbones, thigh gaps. That's what was
Hmm.
like it when we were growing up, and I knew I didn't look like that. So I thought of myself as like an other, like I had something to work towards. Whereas when I hit about 25, I would say, I kind of had this turning point of like, this is what I got. I can work with this. Like I accepted myself for who I was, and I kind of felt like that's
Okay.
what she was referring to in that moment. But in this moment for her, it got like questioned. It was like the first time since she had come to that conclusion that she felt like it was shaking a bit.
Right.
What
I
about
can I see that. So, we're two different people too. I get where she's coming from. Like, at some point, I don't know. I don't essentially, like, agree, but that's just me. I do, kind of identify as being a tad bit superficial myself, but with more so myself. I take pride in my appearance. I don't know. That's just
you?
me,
Do you
but
equate in your appearance to being superficial? I don't agree
yeah,
with
well,
that.
I think it's a backwards approach, but when you're someone who talks about it and who's very open with, like, I want to look better, I want to feel good, sometimes you get a lot of kickback for that. I have my whole life for wanting to, like,
Yeah,
do things to make myself more beautiful or more confident, or sometimes you get pushback from people of, like, oh, well, don't worry about, like, just put on whatever. And like, you get a lot of people who are impatient with the idea, or uncomfortable with the idea. And, maybe it's my own insecurities coming out that's making me feel this way. But at the end of the day, it's for me, it's really not an insecurity. It's like, how can I continually look better or feel better? But that's me. That's how I kind of live my life. I was just telling her earlier, like, I'm 27 and I feel like this is the best I've ever, women are naturally scared of aging, but this is the first year, me personally, I've seen aging on my face more.
Yeah.
And I've actually come to really enjoy it. It's like I had a 20-year-old face once, and like I have more lines, I have more, yes, I get Botox, yes, I do this, but like the natural aging, I kind of appreciate, because I'm like, I look like a woman, I like not a little girl anymore, but I get what she means. I get where she's coming from. Like, looks aren't the only thing that's important to me. That's not something that I focus about on the daily. I think it's different for every woman, though. I really do think so. I think some women think about that every day. I think some women think about their appearance maybe once a month. Who knows? No right or wrong there, But I get where she's coming from on that, of just kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
this is what it is. There's not much more I can do with it. I get that. So,
But it's also like not in the sense of giving up. It's like a
not right,
like
not giving up, but
acceptance.
just kind of like,
Like I'm happy with what I have.
right. And so, like, that was your opinion, right? Like, yours was more like a societal thing. Like, I'm not going to look like this. I'm not going to do this. But like, my take is more like, how can I just improve me and myself personally? Not about societal standards, but just like, how can I keep looking good for me? Like, again, everyone has a different take for that. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that taking care of yourself makes you superficial,
I
right?
don't think so
Oh,
either. I just think sometimes I think we grew up younger, when we were younger, like the term conceited was like an insult.
yeah,
Very much
but
so.
it really
Very much so. You don't
was.
hear that much anymore, but
Um, it
it
was
was, if
like
you liked yourself,
to like yourself too
to
much
like yourself.
because you were
Yes.
full of yourself at that point, and I'm just like, what's the problem? Like,
Yeah, and I'm gonna be, I grew up with a grandmother who told me I was the most beautiful thing in the world, and that's it. She's like,
everybody's
this is
jealous
how
of you, Bella.
she did say that a lot. I'm not agreeing with her. I'm just saying she built up my confidence a lot. Am I a little egotistical? Maybe, but she created this confident woman. She didn't tear down my appearance. She didn't tear down my want to be better, to look better. She encouraged that. And I don't think we didn't have a lot of that back then.
No.
And I think that's beautiful, and I think that's something we should strive towards more as a society. And I think we do, especially with women. There's a bigger womanhood now of, where you better feel beautiful, bitch, regardless of what you look like, how you feel.
Yeah, I hear that from you pretty often. But I
Yeah,
appreciate, like, honestly,
yeah,
you need your friends, you need your soulmates to
you
tell you
do.
that because sometimes you can't see
Or
it.
whoever, even a stranger. Sometimes a
Yeah,
stranger surprises you and they're like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen,
and
ever,
not
or
okay, just like in
not in a creepy way.
something, like not
Yeah,
expecting
exactly.
from it, but just
Right.
tell you like you look nice. Like it means something. But
Yeah. So,
back to
moving forward with the whole superficial talk.
so back to it. Okay, we're back with Samantha and Barkley. And it was it? Oh, okay. So
They most definitely hook up.
scene, where Samantha's like, he's been hitting on me all night, and Carrie's like, you better be careful. He tapes his conquests, and she's
And
like,
she goes, pervert.
yeah, she says pervert smiling. Oh, she reminds me
Yeah.
so much.
As she walks away and primps her hair,
Yeah, she's
she's
like,
all like, ew, how
how
gross.
perv.
How disgusting.
Oh my
Ugh,
god.
Carrie.
Yeah. And then okay, and then the next scene we got Carrie leaving with Derek. So she's like on her way out, and then he asks to go home with her. Um,
Yeah. This
and
was our model. This was
yeah,
Derek the Bone,
model,
our
Derek,
underwear model from
yeah,
before.
the one Stanny's favorite.
Obsessed with. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, oh yeah, so in the name of research, she takes the guy that her best friend's in love with home, whatever, right? Um,
Yeah, no biggie.
and she's like, she asks him when they're at her apartment, like, why didn't you go home with a model? And he's like, I don't date models. I think they're stupid, which I don't think we needed that last part, but
Rude.
yeah,
Yeah. First of all, rude, but
she's
second of all, that's just his opinion at the time.
exactly. And she talks about how like maybe there's physics for beauty, that there can't be two models within a relationship, which is interesting to think about. Like, you know,
Yeah, I think a lot of people think like there's always going to be a more attractive one out of a couple. Like I feel like that was a common thing when like especially when we were younger. It was like, "Oh, you have to have someone who's hot and someone who's ugly so you can make a beautiful baby." Like, you know how many times I heard that and I was just like,
that's what you
"The
heard.
fuck does that mean?"
I always heard that beautiful people made ugly babies and ugly people made beautiful babies.
Or that. Or
But maybe
maybe that's
there
what
was
I'm thinking of too. Or like you need like the two to like make a normal person. Something stupid. Something dumb like that.
yeah.
But yeah, it's that whole play on appearance like that, and that there has to be this weird duality of it, of just not just I just like you because I like you and you look good because I think you look good, and vice versa. But
And then
anyway,
so they're smoking a cigarette in bed, which is, epic for the time.
back to the fucking nicotine.
Literally, that's a big theme in this show. At least,
Obviously.
but blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah. So we talk. Okay, so I thought this part was really cute, and I wanted to touch on it. He talks about how he brings it up. He's like, "I love your nose,"
Yeah,
and
her biggest insecurity.
she couldn't even say it, and that's the thing that this model that she took home loves about her. And
Right.
I think it's very telling. Like, I know personally, like gaps in the teeth. I've never seen one that I didn't like. I think they all look great. I,
Her and I both agree. We
you
we
know,
love a gap.
and I cry when people get them removed, or like, what is it? They like
I know.
lose them.
Pete Davidson. Pete
Yeah,
Davidson.
yeah,
I loved his teeth before, and of course celebrities get veneers, and I get it. You can afford it. Yes, they look conventionally beautiful, but like I think teeth are so distinct because they're so individual. Like it just makes a person. It
really do.
changes. Like it just because you get veneers. Yes, they look beautiful, but it kind of just changes the game for
It really
things.
does. Like one example would be like Miley Cyrus. Like
Yeah.
over the years,
Yeah.
her teeth.
Because she looks like the way we saw her, like she looks
I grew up
different.
with her. She looks
I
so
don't think she looks bad.
person. But anyways, so it's interesting to note that it's sometimes your biggest insecurities that other people love
Is someone's
most. It's
right? Is someone's
favorite.
like their biggest like turn on, or like
It really can
yeah,
be. So like whenever you're insecure about stuff like that, just remember there's probably somebody out there who's like
who who
obsessed with,
thinks you're like damn near perfect?
yeah, who like looks up your picture
Yeah.
on social media just to see how pretty you are, how handsome you are, all that stuff. But anyways,
So they don't have sex. They don't hook up. They sit there and he talks about like
talk to, and he also mentions like what do you want to be doing when you grow up? And I don't think he meant when you grow up. I think he was actually saying like, I wish I was back in my hometown as a cop with kids.
that's what he says. Yeah, he's like that's what I would love to be doing or
Yeah,
do eventually.
which yeah, I hope he ended up there.
I hope he did. I hope he married someone, became a cop, and had his family. But how funny would that be? Like, oh, in my past life, I was an underwear model in New York City. I don't know how
The ninth,
that would bode. I
like,
don't know how that would bode in Iowa, but at the time, but
but
who
also
knows?
yeah, yeah, I could see that, especially for a man.
Yeah,
But
but
okay, so next scene we got Miranda and Skipper at the store.
so Miranda's getting something. She's purchasing
Cat food.
cat litter.
The
She's buying
food.
cat litter.
Yeah, it's the food because
Yeah,
he's like,
oh,
that's the cat food.
yeah,
And she's like, yeah.
or
um,
it's cat food.
but then
And Skipper happens to run into her, which is a little strange, right? Like, how
Yeah.
convenient. Looking back, you're like, why are you at her
Ooh, I didn't
bodega?
think of that. I did
I
not.
just got that right now.
Yeah.
Weird, right?
Well, let's hope that that was unintentional.
That was just purely coincidental.
So, long story short, he's like, why didn't you call me back? She's like, I'm too old for you. And he delivers one of my favorite lines of the show. He's like, it's got nothing to do with age. I think you're luminous. Like, that's cute. But then I feel like this next like moment was so like
It was so.
so she says she was enamored with the version of her that she saw through his eyes.
Yes.
How many times have we been in that situation, one or the other, where
it's a very real, raw statement.
it
It's
is
I think I'm attracted to you because of how attractive
because of
you are to
how
me.
you see me and what you
How
think of
you
me.
see, right. You see
Yeah,
me here, I may see myself here,
here,
but the
but
fact that
I
you
like
see me here is
me. I could hang out with you for a couple of hours and like be in that light.
because, well,
You know?
let's be real, it's ego boosting. It's boosting an ego. It's validating. It's, I don't personally enjoy doing things like that. When people, anytime there's a pedestal involved or a weird game or a
It
weird perception, I'm out. Like,
gets toxic
I'm out. We don't need
really
to
quick
do that.
in
It's
like
toxic.
different kind of ways.
Yeah. So
It's like a power.
she says that, and you can literally see the scene pans to her in Skipper's
Yeah,
glasses,
like
like
literally seeing her own
like his actual
yeah,
like frames, and it's her like
glasses.
face.
I know.
I'm just like, oh God. I'm like, Miranda, please.
Like
What are you doing?
yeah, but she's gonna do it, so just gotta let her. Gotta figure her.
I know.
But then next scene we got Samantha and Barkley in bed, and
They're hooking up.
they're hooking up, and then she asks about the camera, and he's like, "I only."
She's like, so where is it?
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, did your friend Carrie tell you that?"
Duh.
And then she demanded nothing less than a model. So even though he was like, "I'll make an exception," she was just like,
She's like, I'm gonna eat this shit up. And she's like, I mean, looking in that distinctly. I mean, like siren eyes, the whole shebang. We love
that. Right there. That is art. That is art.
I love Samantha Jones. You will. She's my. I'm gonna be real. She's my favorite. She will always be my favorite. I
don't know why
I love and adore.
Yet, but we'll get there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then so next scene we got Carrie and Derek in bed, and
they wake up in the morning.
The friend that Carrie is, what does she do when Stanford calls her? Hands the phone to Derek so that
she said, "Here,
tell him that hi." Like,
tell him you're here.
Yeah.
What a bitch.
No, literally. But
there wasn't texting back then, because let's be real. I feel like if we were texting, it'd be like, guess who came home with no, because I feel like Stanford would try and come over.
That's true.
He would have tried to. He would have made his way into that apartment.
If you were Stanford,
I don't think so.
No,
I don't cock block. No cock blocking. Absolutely not.
That's true. No, none. But now she does let him know, like, yeah, I didn't sleep with him. And then this next scene is funny. Like, they pan back to the guy. What's his name? Nick, that Miranda went on
Nick
with in the very
originally the first scene. Miranda's on that date with the modelizer guy.
And
his name's Nick.
Show him all like his hair is all messed up.
He's all frazzled,
and he's like
discombobulated.
And it's just talking about like
he says, I'm an old man at 34. I can't keep doing this with these models anymore. Like, bitch, what?
Stop.
This is what you wanted.
No, literally. But, you know, he is who he is.
As if they're so draining too when you think about it. I'm like,
Well,
what's the holdup?
It's
They
not
wanted
that.
more things.
Well, think about it. Like, all the work he has to do to maintain and, like, keep up with them and, like, to get them and to keep them interested. Because they're,
I guess I can see that would be a,
you know,
they're what?
they're dating down. And remember all the pretty privilege that they have? Where that one lady,
Yeah.
I get trips to Aspen, I get trips to Spain.
I get a boob job.
I get boob jobs, you know, like, gotta do stuff to keep them interested. So, yeah, he's not okay. He's like,
I guess I can see that because I'm over here like, what do you mean it's hard?
Yeah.
It's like relationships are hard.
Well,
obviously, it's why I'm not in one.
Relationships are hard when you are striving to get somebody who doesn't want to be got.
Real moment of the day.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
So we go to the next scene, the final scene, and
of course, who's here?
And we see Carrie typing away in her computer, and she's talking about how being beautiful is like having a rent-controlled apartment. It's completely
overlooking Central Park, right?
Yeah.
Is that what she says?
Yes. Overlooking Central Park. It's completely unfair and usually bestowed onto those who deserve it the least. That's, you know, how she compares being beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to a writer's thoughts.
Yeah, sure. And then as she's writing, Mr. Big surprises her because he did ask her early in the episode, like, where do you write?
Where do you write?
Yeah, like he wanted to.
And she said, it's either at my apartment or at this little coffee shop. So
exactly.
He goes and he finds her, ironically, at the perfect time, right?
Do you think that's yeah, it's pretty ironic. And then he comes because he wants to give her insight. He'd been thinking about their last conversation and wanted to provide her insight on how modelizing men think. Which also, side note, like, are there modelizer women? But anyways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. That's the whole episode.
Absolutely. That's a whole other discussion. But no, let's hold on. Pause. I think it's not supposed to be in a derogatory light of men just liking women because they're beautiful. Let's be honest. Women also just like men because they're beautiful. I'm not here to discriminate against any gender, any kind of anything. Let's be real. Women also go for men just because they're beautiful, just as much as men go for women because they're beautiful. That's the disclaimer too. I don't want it to come off and we're just like, oh, men this and men that and men this. I don't agree with that. I don't discriminate here. Things go on both sides, whatever spectrum, in the spectrum, on the sides, whatever. We're all humans. What? I'm being inclusive.
It's when you sit on the sides of the spectrum, I'm like, isn't the spectrum, like, include the sides?
Anyway, I'm just trying to be inclusive to the entire whole thing. However, whatever you are, I fucking love you. That's all it is. So
I like that.
Anyway,
whatever.
That's my little disclaimer.
I like that. But yes, modelizers can come in any way, shape, or form.
Any way, shape, or form. So, for sure. But yeah, so he's there asking, what does he say? He wants to give his little input.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so he wants to give his input on, you know, what's going on with that. And he says, well, there's so many goddamn gorgeous women in the city. But the thing is, after a while, you just want to be with the one who makes you laugh. And I feel like
Mr.
Like her, you're ugly, but I like you. That's
exactly what he's saying.
That's what I heard.
But right. But he's obviously trying to hit on her.
About it,
but there is there's an honesty to that I do appreciate, because he is being real. At the end of the day, it's like, yes, you're with these beautiful women. Are they fulfilling to you? Yes or no? Maybe. But at the end of the day, you do just want to be with someone who makes you laugh. It is, I think, that simple. Well, I don't think it's that simple, but You know, you want to be with someone who
I
wants to make you laugh and wants to make you feel good, and you know, and does everything they can, and vice versa. So
yeah,
there is some, I do like how Big, even though he may be kind of like suave and trying to flirt, like there is a lot of sincerity to his character that you do
yeah,
notice. He has a lot of like old school kind of
yeah.
views and values that get sprinkled throughout, and that kind of like accentuate his character, you know. So
I him as classic a lot.
yes, he's very, it's very like he almost feels like a man of the 50s, like a,
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of vibe. At least that's what I get, at least in the beginning here. So but
but yeah. On that note, it's leading into showing that they're gonna be getting closer. So
to
we,
maybe being an item. Not maybe, we all know that, but you
yeah,
know.
but it's like they just have met a couple times at this point, completely
Yeah.
and small, except for this last time. Um, but yeah, it is kind of heating up with them,
Yeah. And she ends the show, we end the episode with her saying, well, beauty is fleeting, but a rent controlled apartment is forever,
which
you
is
know,
not true
referring
as
back.
we have seen the prices in New York.
I haven't looked at them recently. I wanted to move there maybe like 6 years ago, and
Like,
it was feasible for me back then as a nurse. I don't even want to look now.
my feed is always full of like 200 square foot apartments and how to make it work. And people make
Look, I am Texas born and bred. As much as I think I would love to live in New York City, I don't know if I could.
we're definitely
200 square feet? That's like this.
yeah,
That's just like
yeah,
back into my little living room.
yes,
Fuck.
yeah.
No
And
thanks.
they man,
I don't know how you guys do it. If you're from New York and you happen to be watching this, how the fuck do you live?
please let us know.
Is it that charming?
I mean, you haven't been to New York, right?
I have not yet.
We're gonna go.
I've been to the airport. That's it.
We will be going together. Um,
We will. That
unfortunately, once as a kid, once as a teenager, not as an adult yet. Um, yes, it is that charming.
okay. Well, I guess it's like me in New Orleans. New Orleans is my favorite city. And people I've met, the majority of people I've met, they're like, "Oh, New Orleans is disgusting," and I'm like, first of all, fuck you. No, it's not. It's the best city in the fucking world, and I've been around. Okay, I've been to Paris, I've been to London, and let me tell you, New Orleans is where it's at.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think it's dirty and disgusting. I think it's fucking beautiful.
We love.
But yes, I would love to explore the charm of New York for sure. I really wanted to move there like a lot, because I was like, I have to, right? I feel like this is the vibe. Like I feel like I feel like I would do well on the East Coast. I personally think that. But I love the cold. I can't stand our summers. So anyway, we're just veering off into this. But that's it. We completed the episode. That is season 1, episode 2, Models and Mortals. So that's our little lovely take and synopsis on that. So there it was. We thank you again for listening along. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching and listening to the whole thing. We greatly appreciate it. We're having an absolute blast doing this. I know this is our second episode, but I mean, even before we even posted the first one, I think we had so much fun just planning and talking about it. When we actually released the episode, this week, we were filming now, but it was awesome. It was awesome. You know, regardless of what we get or who sees it, like just anyone at all, it's been really cool. And I really appreciate everyone. Any kind of like, any kind of suggestion, comment, sharing, like it's so awesome. So thank you so much for everything.
Don't forget, we want to know what celebrity you would have fucked when they were young.
That's you guys' question for the day for sure.
We will.
As a Hollywood celebrity or Hollywood like actor, actress, we want to know that. So if you got this far again, you better answer, because we've asked you now twice. But anyway, the goal is to be back next week with season 1, episode 3. And we'll be discussing that whole thing and doing our whole thing. So thank you again. We are each other's soulmates. So see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.